So welcome to the Indian's Guide to Studying Overseas, a podcast show that provides you with the information you need to study abroad in countries such as the UK, Australia, the US and Canada. I'm Dr. Ranjit Kutan.
And I'm Professor Tony Stewart.
And we're the co-hosts of the show. In this episode, we'll be exploring the essential questions that every prospective Indian student asks themselves, or should ask themselves, before even exploring the option of studying overseas. And that question is, why do you want to study abroad? With so many great universities in India, why should you study overseas?
Yes, even though there are so many great universities and courses in India, and the option to study an overseas course online is easier than ever, students are still interested in studying abroad, and we'll be exploring the many reasons for this in this episode.
And there are many reasons, but before we go into those, remember, if you like the show, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Overcast, or your listening platform of choice, so you can hear about new episodes, and go to our website, thestudyabroadshow.com, and sign up to receive our free newsletter and download our free Study Abroad checklist. This is your essential guide that is going to walk you through every step of the process and help you make your dream of studying abroad a reality. So Tony, it looks like we're focusing on the obvious question, and one that we assume so many people who want to study abroad would have thought about. But in our experience, they often haven't. And by not fully understanding the reasons and by beginning their journey not having done this research, it can be a costly mistake. Would you agree?
Yes. In fact, when we examined this question, we identified 5 key answers.
We've identified 5, but I guess there's probably many more. So students who have gone through this process will probably be listening to this thinking, well, there are other reasons, but these are the broad areas that we feel that you need to consider. I mean, the first one, let's just dive straight into these. The first one is, the course or the university is highly regarded. I mean, I say the course or university. Maybe you're doing a specialist program, and that specialist program is offered by a university where you've got a highly esteemed academic who will be teaching you, or that's probably where a number of people have been. And if you want to be known in your discipline, that's probably where you want to study.
Yes, indeed. So the second answer is connection to a specific country, perhaps one you've always wanted to visit. So why not visit and study at the same time? You may want to work there in the future as well, perhaps in the place for your sector, or you may have personal connections with the country, perhaps family living there.
That's true, actually. I think a lot of the students that I've spoken to, they have been interested in studying in the UK, for example, because they have family here. As we know, in the UK, there's a big Indian population. People migrated from the Punjab here in the 1960s, so there's many personal connections. Our third reason or key answer to the question of why study abroad is investment in you. An overseas course may have more credibility, in particular if you're returning to India after your studies. Perhaps the sad truth, really, that regardless of the quality of the course, many employers in India will value an overseas qualification because in their minds it holds greater value.
Our answer number 4, the next one, is financial ability. And you may have a family who are happy to pay for you to experience overseas study. It's also kudos in some families, and it might even increase your marriage prospects.
That's quite true. I mean, it goes back to the investment in you, that family may be investing in you and want you to study overseas, because for some families, having on that list of reasons for why their son or daughter is good marriage material could be having an overseas course. That is very true in some cases. One of the things, our sort of 5th reason that we identified was independence. And for many students, wanting to study overseas gives them some independence away from family. Now, we're not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but in India, many people live in extended joint families. So an extended joint family will be where parents, uncles, aunties, different families live together in the same household. Now, that's great because, you've got a lot of support there, but it often gives students little space for freedom, and for young people who may want to explore themselves. They may not have a lot of personal time away from family. So I'll give you a personal example. My family in India, who live in these extended families, they often have very big houses, great, but you don't really get that freedom to be away from that house to perhaps explore yourself and what your interests are. So my relatives who have studied overseas have really valued that, but still value family as well.
Right. Of course, all of these will create a set of factors that pull or draw you to studying abroad, or they may make you consider twice and push you away from the idea completely.
Yeah, I think that's right, Tony. I think there's a number of things here we just talked about. And in our checklist, there are other things that will help students wanting to study abroad.
Indeed. And one of the reasons that we're doing these podcasts isn't necessarily to sell you on the idea of studying abroad, but to think about the reasons why and to make sure that it's the right thing for you. So we're almost at the end of the show, and we'd like to remind you that you can find links to everything we mentioned in the show notes, or if you're listening on a podcast platform that doesn't provide those, hop onto our website, thestudyabroadshow.com, and search for the number of the show, and you'll find the show notes there. Subscribe to our show on Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Overcast, or your listening platform of choice. And please also send us your feedback. We'd love to hear how you're finding the show and to hear about any topics that you'd like us to cover.
As you know, we sign off each podcast with 1 or 2 actionable tasks that you can do straight away to help you on your journey to studying abroad and to help you to successfully engage in your studies and in your search for employment after you've graduated.
Yes, with so many great tips and advice, you can easily get into a state of analysis paralysis. So we want to give you something practical to do.
So today, our main tip is for you to write a list of what is pulling, drawing, attracting you to study abroad, and also a list of your reservations or what's pulling you away from that idea. This sounds really simple, and it is a really simple task, but in our experience, a lot of students who have studied abroad may have been pulled or drawn or even dragged into that direction because of reasons that they haven't fully considered. So we suggest writing this down. Don't just sit and think about it. Seeing it on paper will help you decide, and you can refer back to that in moments when you might forget why you ever chose to study abroad. It's been great sharing these tips with you today, and thank you again for joining us. Until next time, keep focused,
keep studying,
and keep safe.
Take care and goodbye.